So despite beating LSU twice, Florida twice, and Alabama, Mike Norvell still hasn't won a conference game in over 365 days. So it's time to fire Mike Norvell. And we're going to go into three reasons why. And reason number one is the most infamous. It's the snub. Florida State's record since the snub is 5-14, and I included a 63-3 loss to Georgia in that record. And you got to wonder if the snub had a long-lasting effect on the program, as Florida State just hasn't been the same football team since then. They had no response. They just looked anytime adversity faced, they just went down last year. And then they did have the Alabama win to start this year, which got everybody excited that things might have turned around. Then two wins against weak competition. But since the conference phase resumed, Florida State's been 0-3, and the defense has looked atrocious. So I'm not sure if when it comes to having some fight in the football team, if the snub didn't take that out of them somehow and it just carry over from culture to culture, like year to year. And then reason number two is Mike Norvell cannot recruit at the high school level. He's never recruited a top 10 high school class, and he relies on the transfer portal, which I think makes it harder to establish year to year culture. I like to think of the proper way to use the portal as you kind of get your foundation built through the high school level, and then you use the portal to kind of plug in the little needs. Like think of Florida or Ohio State when they won their national championship. They had pretty much had a nucleus of players, but they added key pieces, like Will Howard, Caleb Downs, that was able to get the job done. That's how I think of using the portal. And this is a look at Florida State's recruiting ranking since 2020. And you can see the highest they got was 12th in 2024. And at one point, that class was on pace to be maybe a top 6 or 7 class. But ever since then, it's been a slow build up. You look at 24/7 Sports, 22, 23, 19, 16, 12, and 19. That's just not going to cut it. And even in rivals and on three, you can see it's not been much better. When you come to a place like Florida State, you're supposed to recruit top 10 classes every year. The goal here is to compete for a championship. Anything less than that is unacceptable. And the third reason is 2 winning season in the last 6 years. And I got to give credit where credit's due. The 23 season was it was a fun season, and 22 team would be one of my favorite, probably 3 loss teams of all time, because they just played with so much heart. And watching Jordan Travis at the end of the season against Oklahoma and Florida was just a thing of beauty. But since pretty much we got snubbed, it just hasn't been the same. And it was a long road to even get to the 22 season. I know some of that was due to COVID. You can't fully blame Mike Norvell for that, but after going 13-1 and 23, you like to think that Florida wouldn't fall all the way to 2-10, and then in 2025, so far we're 3-3, which is, unacceptable. And I'm not sure where the expectations should lie after going 2-10. I would have thought 8 or 9 wins would have been a good point to get back to, and certainly they can still accomplish that. I mean, when you have Clemson or Florida still on your schedule, it makes it a little bit difficult. But there's enough winnable games left that they should get there if this football team has any kind of fight in them.